A cold October storm tore through Maple Ridge, Washington like the town had personally offended the sky. Wind screamed between the perfect little colonial houses, ripping Halloween decorations from porches and sending plastic skeletons flying like cheap omens. Most nights this neighborhood felt like a screensaver. Trimmed lawns, porch lights on timers, wind chimes singing lullabies nobody really listened to. Neighbors waved from their driveways but never crossed the street. Safe. Too safe. The kind of place where bad things only happened on the news. Ariana Miles had always hated that feeling. She was 32, 5'7", still built like the college track runner she used to be, but the last 7 years had carved hollows under her green eyes that no amount of concealer could hide. Her dark brown hair was usually pulled into a tight bun for work. Tonight it hung in wet ropes down her back because the umbrella had given up halfway home, 2:07 a.m. She pushed open the front door of the house she'd bought with the life insurance money that never felt like enough. The alarm chirped once, then settled. She kicked off her soaked flats, dropped her keys in the bowl, and stood dripping on the hardwood like a woman waiting for permission to exist. Her phone buzzed in her coat pocket. Unknown number. One line glowed on the screen. "I know what you did, Ariana. The judge will know too." The phone slipped from her numb fingers and shattered against the tile with a sound too loud for the empty house. No, no one could know. 3 years ago she had stood in the woods behind this very house with a shovel and a lie she'd rehearsed for months. She had watched dirt fall on a face that used to smile in wedding photos. She had whispered, "I'm sorry," even though she wasn't. She had made sure. A floorboard creaked in the hallway, slow, deliberate, like someone who knew exactly how much noise would make her heart stop. "Ariana!" The voice slid into her bones like liquid nitrogen. She knew that voice. She'd heard it in nightmares, in therapy sessions, in the shower when the water ran too hot and she couldn't breathe. Lightning flashed white-blue through the kitchen window. And there he was, Adrian Miles. 6'3", broad shoulders filling the doorway, rain dripping from the same black peacoat he wore the night he disappeared. His blonde hair was longer now, streaked with premature grey, but the eyes were the same, Arctic blue and viciously alive. He smiled the way a wolf smiles at a rabbit that just realised the trap was always open. "You should have aimed better last time, sweetheart." The metal candle stand was in her hand before her brain caught up. She swung it like a baseball bat. It connected with his temple with a sickening crack. Adrian staggered, blood mixing with rainwater, and hit the floor hard. Ariana didn't wait to see if he got up. She ran. Bare feet on wet pavement, lungs burning, storm swallowing her screams. She dove into her SUV, hands shaking so badly enough that it took 4 tries to get the key in the ignition. The engine finally caught and she floored it, tires hydroplaning through the sleeping neighborhood until she skidded into Valerie Dawson's driveway 4 streets over. Valerie opened the door in an oversized college hoodie, eyes widening at the sight of her best friend soaked, shaking, barefoot, mascara running in black rivers down her face. "He's alive!" Ariana choked out before collapsing into Valerie's arms. "Adrian's alive!" Valerie dragged her inside, locked every deadbolt, and poured whiskey neither of them drank. Morning came grey and merciless. 2 sheriff's deputies stood on Valerie's porch before the coffee finished brewing. Ariana Miles, she already knew. "You're under arrest for the attempted murder of Adrian Miles." The cuffs were cold. The neighbors watched from behind curtains. Someone was already filming on their phone. Adrian had done everything perfectly, showed up at the ER with a concussion and a story about his abusive estranged wife breaking in and attacking him. He had photos of the bruises, self-inflicted, Ariana would bet her life, a detailed police report filed at 4:12 a.m., and a tearful interview with the local news by sunrise. By 2 p.m., she was in an orange jumpsuit, sitting across from a public defender who kept saying words like uphill battle and prior domestic incidents on record. Adrian had spent years making sure there was a paper trail of her instability. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for the next afternoon. The courtroom smelled like old wood and desperation. Ariana sat rigid in a navy blazer Valerie had brought, hair twisted into the neatest bun she could manage, with zip-tied wrists. Then the doors opened. Adrian walked in wearing a charcoal suit, hair neatly combed, the perfect picture of a battered husband. A purple bruise bloomed across his left temple exactly where the candle stand had landed. He made eye contact with Ariana and let a single tear roll down his cheek for the cameras. The prosecutor painted a monster. Mrs. Miles has a documented history of violence. 3 years ago, her husband vanished under suspicious circumstances. Yesterday, she tried to finish what she started. Ariana's lawyer objected, but the damage was done. The judge looked tired, and then a tiny voice cut through the room like glass breaking. "Your Honor?" Every head turned. A 9-year-old girl in a purple coat stood at the bar, clutching a tablet like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Mia Dawson, Valerie's daughter, the kid Ariana had babysat 100 times. Valerie shot to her feet. "Mia, honey, what are you—" The judge raised a hand. "Let the child speak." Mia walked forward on legs that barely stopped shaking. "I recorded something last night," she said, voice small but clear. "My mum doesn't know. I was supposed to be asleep." She tapped the screen. The courtroom's massive display lit up. Night vision footage, timestamp 2:11 a.m. Adrian, unmistakable even in grainy green, crouched at Ariana's back door with lockpicks. He whispered to himself as he worked, 3 years I waited, 3 years playing dead while she played the grieving widow. Tonight she finally pays for burying me alive." He slid a hunting knife from his coat, tested the edge with his thumb, and disappeared inside. The courtroom erupted. Adrian shot up. "It's fabricated, deep fake. She's been planning this." "Sit down, Mr. Miles," the judge snapped. 2 bailiffs were already moving. The prosecutor looked like someone had punched him in the soul. The judge's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. "All charges against Ariana Miles are dismissed with prejudice. Mr. Miles, you are hereby remanded into custody on charges of attempted murder, stalking, burglary, and filing a false police report. Bailiff, take him." Adrian lunged across the table, screaming her name like a curse. It took 3 deputies to drag him out. His last look at Ariana was pure poison. She didn't look away. She smiled. 3 months later, County Jail, Cell Block C. Adrian sat on the edge of his cot staring at the envelope the guard had just slid through the slot. No return address. Just his name in handwriting that made his blood run cold. Inside, 1 Polaroid, a patch of woods at twilight, a rectangle of freshly turned earth, no body, just a hole waiting. On the back, in black ink, "You forgot to check if I really finished the job." Adrian started screaming. He screamed until his voice shredded, until they sedated him with enough Thorazine to drop a horse. That same night, at 11:47 p.m., the jail's security cameras caught something impossible. Every corridor camera on Block C went to static for exactly 11 seconds. When the feed returned, Adrian's cell door stood open. The cot was empty. The jumpsuit folded neatly. No footprints, no struggle. Adrian Miles had simply ceased to exist. Again. The news ran wild with it for weeks. Escaped mastermind, cartel hit, witness protection. Nobody ever found a body. Nobody ever found a trace. 6 months after the trial, Ariana sold the Maple Ridge house for cash, loaded a U-Haul with only what mattered, and drove west until the Cascades turned into Rockies, turned into high desert. She bought 50 acres outside Bend, Oregon, under the name of the non-profit she'd quietly incorporated years earlier, Phoenix Haven. A shelter for women and children with nowhere left to run. State-of-the-art security, no public address. Funding from anonymous donors who only asked that the gates stay open for anyone who showed up bleeding. Valerie and Mia moved in the first week. Some nights, when the wind howls down from the mountains and the coyotes sing, Ariana walks the perimeter fence alone. She carries no weapon. She doesn't need one anymore. Because every October, when the storms roll in and the locals tell the story of the wife who killed her husband twice, Ariana just smiles into the dark. She knows the truth. Adrian didn't escape that cell. He was collected, quietly, professionally, permanently. And somewhere out in those 50 acres, under a patch of wild sage that never quite grows right, there's a rectangle of earth that stays soft no matter how many seasons pass. Ariana visits it sometimes, just to make sure, just to whisper the same 4 words she said 3 years apart. This time, for real. Then she walks back to the main house where children laugh and women rebuild, and nobody ever has to be afraid again. Because Ariana Miles learned something the night her dead husband came back. Some ghosts don't need to be exorcised, they just need to be buried deeper. The locals still drive past the old house in Maple Ridge at 2:13 a.m. every October, windows down, phones recording. They swear they hear footsteps in the rain, soft, deliberate, getting closer. But when they shine their lights, nothing, just wet pavement, just wind, just the story people tell around campfires now, the night the dead husband came back, and the morning he disappeared for good, because Ariana made sure of it. This time, for real.